Like, that's what I'm excited for. Like, it's a new chapter. That's what I was ready for, in making this home. And I expect, a lot of Iowa fans to become Indiana Fever fans. I know they already have. They support women's basketball so well. I know a lot of them will be in the stands this summer cheering us on.
Caitlin Clark is coming for the 2025 WNBA MVP award, and her rivals are already losing their minds before the season even tips off on May 17th. Ordinarily, the league's MVP conversation starts to heat up around the halfway mark, but Clark's potential sophomore surge has created an unprecedented preseason storm. Rumors, social media chatter, and front office statements all point to her making a massive leap that could flip the WNBA's balance of power. Fans are treating the May 17th opener against the Chicago Sky like it's Game 7 of the finals, and other stars are definitely taking notice. What's causing all the panic? It's not just hype, it's the sense that Clark is on the verge of a full-on takeover. Usually, veteran players don't fret over someone fresh out of college, but Clark isn't your typical newcomer. The jealousy manifests in cryptic social media posts about being overshadowed, rumors of training camp scuffles fueled by frustration over her highlight reels, and analysts who used to wait until the All-Star break now calling her a future MVP. If anyone was sleeping on Clark, they're wide awake now. In early March, Indiana Fever president Kelly Krauskopf told Sportico that the franchise is building a championship contender around Clark. Krauskopf pointed to their late 2024 surge of 87.3 points per game over a 15-game stretch and highlighted new acquisitions like Natasha Howard and DeWanna Bonner. For a team that spent years near the bottom of the standings, going all in on a second-year player is almost unheard of, but that's the level of faith they have in Clark's talents. As soon as Krauskopf's words went public, rival front offices took notice. If Clark truly has generational skills, she could deliver Indiana's first title since the Tamika Catchings era, and that realization is enough to jolt any contender. Just a couple days later, Clark lost a pop-a-shot contest to retired NFL quarterback Eli Manning by a score of 76-51. Instead of deflating her hype, it became comedic fodder that, in classic Clark fashion, she turned into motivation. Social media flooded with jokes and memes, but Clark is notorious for channeling even trivial losses into bigger on-court performances. For her rivals, it was another sign that everything, literally everything, Clark does generates headlines, while many of their own accomplishments barely register in public discourse. The discrepancy fuels frustration among established stars who feel overshadowed by a sophomore guard who hasn't yet played a second year. On February 28th, the Chicago Sky revealed that Fever Sky games would be held at the 20,000-seat United Center in 2025. Regular season WNBA contests rarely move to NBA arenas of that size unless it's for a special event or the postseason. Angel Reese, a marquee name in her own right, is on the Sky, yet the widespread belief is that this shift is primarily about Clark's drawing power. Imagine being a veteran star who has spent years in smaller venues, sometimes with attendance below 10,000, and suddenly a sophomore sensation is filling far larger arenas. It can't be easy to swallow, especially when you're used to hearing that growing women's basketball is a gradual process. Clark's unprecedented popularity has sped up that process in ways nobody predicted. Second-year players almost never dominate MVP conversations, but Clark's rookie year was anything but ordinary. She posted 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds, led the league with 337 total assists, and nailed 122 threes, the second most for a single season. She finished fourth in MVP voting, even while Aja Wilson claimed her third MVP title. That kind of impact from a rookie is basically unheard of. Add to that her flair for the dramatic, deep-range shooting, precision passing, crowd-stirring celebrations, and you have a recipe for a media phenomenon that can quickly overshadow proven veterans. In an October 23rd Fever video, Clark declared, "I feel like I'm just scratching the surface." Fans on social media jumped on that, calling 2025 her MVP season. They point to a 5-game run last year where she averaged 26.8 points on 47% shooting, 43% from 3, and 94% at the line, alongside 6.2 rebounds and 10.8 assists. If she sustains that level, it's a frightening prospect for any defender. Krauskopf even suggested in March that if Clark lowers her turnovers from 5.6 to around 4 per game and ups the tempo, she could average 20 22 points and 9 assists. A clear MVP caliber line. For many fans, it's a matter of when, not if, Clark becomes the face of the league. Meanwhile, Aja Wilson remains the reigning queen of the WNBA after posting 26.9 points and 11.9 rebounds in 2024. She's used to being the face of the league, but Clark's meteoric rise has introduced fresh competition for the spotlight. Some fans on social media even joke that Wilson is panicking, though that's likely overblown. Still, there's no denying Clark has captured the public's imagination, and if Clark lifts the Fever to a top 3 seed while the Las Vegas Aces stumble, it could tip MVP voters in her favor. Historically, MVP winners often come from teams with strong records, and the storyline of sophomore dethrones reigning champ might be irresistible to media outlets hungry for drama. Angel Reese, who averaged 13.1 points and 12.1 rebounds in 2024 while racking up 15 consecutive double-doubles, also feels the pressure. The Sky lost 3 of 4 to the Fever last season, and those matchups drew 15 million viewers largely because of the Reese-Clark rivalry that originated in college. Now, the Sky are moving to a bigger arena, yet many credit Clark for the ticket demand. If you're Reese, it might feel like your own team is rolling out the red carpet for the opponent. The Sky have new pieces like guard Dana Evans and center Camila Cardoso, but if they focus too heavily on stopping Clark's scoring, she'll dish it out to teammates. She averaged 8.3 assists against them last year. 1 or 2 early fouls on Reese or Cardoso could disrupt Chicago's entire game plan, fueling social media chatter that Clark is unstoppable once again. Chennedy Carter is a cautionary tale. She fouled Clark hard in June 2024, and some fans believe that moment accelerated Carter's downward spiral. She's currently a free agent with no major March 2025 updates, while Clark's profile skyrockets. Clark's 23-point response in that game exemplified her habit of using adversity as fuel. Carter's struggles highlight how swiftly the league's spotlight can shift, and once it does, jealousy can spread quickly. A single misstep against Clark might dominate the news cycle, overshadowing anything else a player accomplishes that week. Sydney Colson's March 2025 move to the Fever underscores the team's ambition. She called them scary, a word that reflects the league-wide sense that Indiana could become a legitimate contender sooner than anyone anticipated. Clark will anchor the offense. Howard brings her 2019 Defensive Player of the Year skill set, and Bonner adds playoff experience and outside shooting. The plan revolves around Clark orchestrating fast breaks, hitting deep shots, and cutting down her turnover ratio. If the Fever's veterans embrace supporting roles, it could become the perfect environment for Clark's talents. However, if anyone chafes at a sophomore taking center stage, internal friction can arise. Balancing individual goals with the team's bigger vision is a challenge on any roster with multiple stars. Financially, Clark is reshaping the WNBA's economic conversation. She pushed Fever ticket sales up 93% according to Forbes, and her trading cards sold for eye-popping amounts, eclipsing even those of the league's biggest names. She's also credited with a 48% spike in league-wide viewership, and single-game attendance records have fallen whenever she steps onto the court. For players who have dedicated their careers to growing the WNBA, it can be frustrating to see a sophomore drawing more eyes and corporate dollars than their own banner-worthy accomplishments. Clark's reported $30 million annual Nike deal only pours fuel on that fire. As soon as that news dropped, social media lit up with debates. Is Clark truly worth that kind of investment, or is it all hype? Rival players, many of whom have never seen that level of endorsement cash, might feel the same underlying bitterness. Some fans suspect that jealousy could escalate physical play. Clark was on the receiving end of 15% of the league's flagrant fouls last year per WNBA.com, yet she calmly drained 90% of her free throws. If rivals channel their frustration into cheap shots, she'll rack up points at the stripe and further pad her MVP credentials. The Fever's defense, meanwhile, should improve with Howard's shot blocking and Bonner's length on the perimeter, masking some of Clark's defensive lapses. By cutting turnovers and boosting her efficiency, Clark could make an astronomical leap in box score impact. When the Fever visit the Sky at the United Center on June 7th and July 27th, the potential crowd of 20,000 dwarfs standard WNBA arenas. If Clark seizes those moments, dropping 25+ points and orchestrating key wins, it could become the signature storyline of 2025. Angel Reese might collect her usual double triple-double, but if her team can't defend Clark's pull-up threes or her pinpoint passes, Reese could see her stat line overshadowed by Indiana's young phenom. The same goes for A'ja Wilson. Should her aces falter, Clark's meteoric surge narrative could overshadow Wilson's historically great numbers, even if Wilson continues to be the dominant force we've known her to be. It's not just on-court production that makes Clark such a phenomenon. Charles Barkley weighed in on her fame during a 2024 podcast, calling certain WNBA players petty for being jealous of Clark's visibility. Cheryl Swoops got dragged into a rumor about Clark's supposed extra year of eligibility, which turned out to be false. But the fact that names like Barkley and Swoops are even in the discussion highlights how Clark's story transcends the usual WNBA bubble. Everyone, from NBA icons to fans who usually only watch men's basketball, has an opinion on Caitlin Clark. That spotlight can breed envy among players who've spent years building their brand only to watch a newcomer headline every story and pack bigger arenas. Outside the Fever, rival coaches and scouting staffs are scrambling to prepare specialized game plans. Some are looking at box-and-one defenses, hoping to force the ball out of Clark's hands. Others might try to exploit her occasional defensive lapses or her drive and dish instincts, but so far nothing has slowed her for long. Her combination of shooting range, passing accuracy, and sheer confidence is rare. Coaches have admitted anonymously that you can't rattle her because she feeds off any slight, whether it's a perceived insult on Twitter or a silly arcade game loss to Eli Manning. The 2025 season could hinge on whether jealousy cripples or motivates the WNBA's established stars. A'ja Wilson may come out firing to prove she's still the undisputed best. Angel Reese might diversify her offensive arsenal to keep pace with Clark's scoring. Kennedy Carter, if she lands on a roster, might aim for redemption by showing she can match Clark's competitive fire. Yet if these players push too hard, forcing shots, getting into foul trouble, or letting frustration simmer, Clark will exploit their mistakes. She has a knack for turning opponents' aggression into highlight reel moments. The opener on May 17th will be the first big litmus test. If Clark drops 30 points or dimes out 12 assists in a Fever victory, social media will proclaim her MVP campaign officially underway. Critics might claim she's overhyped if she struggles, but few are betting against her, given her track record of responding to pressure with even better performances. The Fever's front office is fully behind her, the roster is built around her strengths, and her appetite for competition seems insatiable. Every time a rival tries to question her mettle, she's found a way to up the ante. Clark's MVP chase represents more than a single trophy. It's a bold statement about how quickly a transcendent player can upend the pecking order in a league that cherishes its established hierarchy. The WNBA has long aimed for broader recognition, and Clark's explosive popularity may be the catalyst for that growth. Yet for players who have spent years cultivating their own stardom, watching someone new overshadow them almost overnight can be unsettling. Competition can elevate the entire league, driving ratings and fan engagement to levels not seen before. At the same time, it can devolve into resentment and hard fouls if stars feel their accomplishments aren't getting proper respect. All eyes are on the Indiana Fever in 2025. If their chemistry holds and Clark sharpens her game, they could leap into contention far sooner than anyone imagined. A'ja Wilson might find herself fighting tooth and nail to maintain her MVP crown, particularly if the Aces have roster shakeups or early season setbacks. Angel Reese will want redemption after last year's losses to the Fever, and she has the skill to provide a real challenge. If Reese averages 15 points and 13 rebounds, but the Sky still lose to Indiana's balanced attack, fans will point to Clark as the difference maker. Even players like Breanna Stewart or Elena Del Don, established superstars in their own right, will be part of the collective scramble to either keep up with or contain Clark's growing influence. The looming question is whether Clark's on-court production can match or exceed the outsized hype. One sizzling performance in that May 17th opener could set a tone for the entire season, driving even more fans to jump on the Clark bandwagon. A subpar outing, by contrast, might embolden her critics, at least until she inevitably bounces back. Given her history, nobody expects her to stay down for long, so the pressure is on every opposing coach to concoct a defensive scheme that can catch her off guard. For fans, the drama is a win-win. If Clark dominates, we witness the birth of a new superstar era that could propel the WNBA to new heights. If her rivals fight back, we get epic battles that define a generation of women's basketball. Either way, the league benefits from the increased visibility and heightened energy. In a sports landscape often crowded by bigger leagues, the WNBA can leverage the Clark phenomenon to reach new audiences, drawing in casual fans who might only watch if something or someone truly special grabs their attention. The jealous rage brewing around Clark's rise isn't going away though. Whether it implodes rivals or pushes them to new heights remains to be seen, but it's riveting to watch. The league has been waiting for a storyline like this to captivate mainstream audiences, and Caitlin Clark might be the perfect player to deliver it. If she manages to sustain the hype and translate it into actual championships, she'll enter the rarefied air of legends who both dominate statistically and expand the sport's cultural footprint. Yet with every highlight reel and sold-out arena, Clark's target grows larger. Veteran players have pride and a desire to protect the legacies they've painstakingly built. The dynamic could shift if, for instance, an older star like Diana Taurasi, though recently retired, publicly praises Clark, while established mid-career vets feel overshadowed. Clark's brand of laser-focused swagger can either unite fans behind her or make them root for her downfall, both of which magnify the conversation around her every move. So will we see a second-year MVP and a sophomore superstar shaking up everything we thought we knew about the WNBA? Or will the league's established icons remind everyone why they've reigned supreme for so long? The countdown to May 17th has never felt more intense. One spectacular performance that night could set the stage for a season overshadowed by a single question: can anyone stop Caitlin Clark from taking over? The answer may lie in how well the Fever integrate their new pieces, how quickly Clark refines her decision-making, and how resilient veterans like Wilson or Reese proved to be under mounting pressure. Clark's mental game, honed by her knack for turning every slight into motivation, suggests she'll thrive. But the more success she tastes, the more determined her rivals will become to humble her on the court. That tension is the spark that can make the 2025 WNBA season a landmark year in the league's history. If Clark truly unlocks another level, improving her mid-range efficiency, slashing turnovers, and maintaining that fearless shot selection, her stat lines could approach 25 points and 10 assists, numbers that would indeed make her a runaway MVP candidate. Should she also lead the Fever to a deep playoff run, the conversation might shift from future superstar to current face of the league. The older guard, in turn, will have to prove they're not ready to pass the torch. Either way, fans get the best basketball possible, so buckle up. The question of whether anyone can contain Caitlin Clark might define this season and shape the league for years to come. If she blazes a path to MVP glory, we could be witnessing the birth of a superstar who changes the WNBA's trajectory for the next decade. If her rivals hold her off, it will take a near-heroic collective effort. Either scenario promises the kind of tension and spectacle women's basketball enthusiasts have dreamed of seeing. As far as storylines go, it doesn't get much bigger than this.